Hi, I'm going to be making my favorite vanilla cupcake recipe and vanilla icing recipe. This is one of my favorites because it's simple and quick. You just dump everything into one bowl, mix it up, pop it into the cupcake cases, and into the oven it goes. What I'll do is go through and show you all the equipment that I use and the ingredients, and then we'll start making the cupcakes. So starting with my trusty KitchenAid stand mixer, I'll use this for all my baking in the kitchen. It's fantastic and mixes everything up brilliantly. With that, I am using the flat beater today. If you don't have the KitchenAid mixer, then a hand mixer will do just fine, but this is absolutely fantastic. So if you can get your hands on one of these or something similar, that it's just fantastic to use. I also have my silicone spatula for scraping down the sides of the bowl. I've got some measuring spoons, measuring cup, and this is my trusty ice cream scoop for portioning out my batter into the cupcake cases. It works brilliantly and a little bit less of a mess. For my ingredients, I've got some sugar, some flour, this is some baking powder, vegetable shortening, which I've measured out into the cup already. Vegetable shortening is Crisco or Cremelta or snow cream, which is what I'm using. We've also got some milk, some almond extract, almond extract and some vanilla extract, a little bit of salt, and 3 eggs we're going to be using, which I've already broken into this bowl just here. We're also using over here 2 12-cup muffin pans, and then just some paper cases at the back. And you can just get these from grocery stores or kitchen shops. Pick whatever color or style you like. Just make sure that they fit into the pan that you've got. Now, some of these you can get so that you don't need to use a cupcake pan, so you can just set them on a tray, but most of them you'll need the pan to put them in, and that just stops them from opening up when you put your batter into them. So it just holds the shape and gives you a really nice cupcake shape. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these into the pans, and I will be right back. Right, so there we go. We've got the 2 12-cup muffin pans or cupcake pans with the papers all ready to go. I like to make sure that that's all ready before I start making my batter, so I can spoon the batter straight in and then straight into the oven. So let's go back over and we'll start to measure out our ingredients into our bowl, and we'll start making our batter. Okay, so now we're going to start adding our ingredients to the bowl, all one bowl as I said, so nice and easy, and then we'll start to mix it up. So we're going to start by putting the flour into the bowl. So I'm going to do 2 1/4 cups of flour. Now with this recipe you don't need to sift it. I've found you just literally plunk the flour into the bowl and away you go. So I have a little measuring jug that I keep in my flour. It actually comes with a little container. So it's a little bit awkward with only one hand so that you can see, but I just sort of actually shake it till it's level and pop that in. So I'll put in my, this is 1 cup, so I'll add another 1 1/4 cups, and then I'll be back. Okay, so the flour is now measured into the bowl. We're going to do the same thing again. I've got the little measuring cup that I leave in my sugar, and it doesn't quite work while I'm holding this, so we'll just set you down there. And so again, just scooping it in, I just give it a little shake to level it and pop it in, and I'm doing 1.5 cups, and so I'm just going to measure out, oh, it's not quite a cup, dump out a little bit until we get down to the 1/2 cup. So that's about 1/2 cup now, and we pop it in. This recipe is very forgiving, so you definitely, that's as accurate as I need to be for this particular recipe. So bear with me just a second. We'll move this out of the way, and we'll start adding more ingredients in just a second. Okay, I've tried to move the camera around so you can see a little better. So we've got our 2 1/4 cups of flour in here, and we've got 1.5 cups of sugar. Then I'm going to add in my 3/4 cup of shortening. So I've already measured that out in my little measuring cup. You can use my little spatula and just pop that all into the bowl just there. There we go. And then we're going to pour in our 3/4 cup of milk, popping that into the bowl. And then we're going to pop in our 3 eggs that I've already broken into the bowl. Nice and easy. We'll just make sure all that gets into there, just like that. Fantastic. Now we are using a teaspoon of salt. So we'll pop that out of the way. We're going to use a teaspoon of salt just there. So again, measure it out, pop that in. And we're going to use a teaspoon of, 2.5 teaspoons of the baking powder. So that'll give it a little bit of volume. So 1, 2, and that's a half. You can use a half teaspoon if you want. Otherwise, I'll just sort of do half of the single teaspoon. Right, then we need to add in our vanilla. So we're doing a teaspoon of vanilla extract. You can use vanilla bean paste. You can use vanilla essence. Normally I've got some vanilla bean paste, but I run out, so this is just a regular vanilla extract, which will do the trick and give me a lovely flavor as well. And then just to add a little bit of extra flavor, we're going to pop in half a teaspoon of the almond essence as well, which adds an absolutely lovely flavor to the batter. So we're going to pop on our beater just like this, and we'll get this mixing away. Now this sometimes makes a little bit of a mess, so I tend to just pulse it until I know that it's not going to splatter all up and down the sides. So I'm going to let it mix slowly for just a little bit, and then we'll scrape down the sides and the batter, or the beater, and then we'll speed it up to finish mixing it. Okay, so that was at speed 2, and then we'll just lift this up. We'll grab my spatula here that I used to get the shortening out of its little container, wipe off the beater just quickly, make sure everything is nice and mixed in its bowl. All the sides are nicely scraped. To just give it a quick little stir, and I just use the beater to wipe off my spatula. Pop that back down, and then we're going to mix it on high until it's nice and smooth. There we go. That didn't take very long, and now it's nice and mixed up and it's light and fluffy, and we can get ready to pop it into our cupcake cases. Okay, so we've got our batter nicely mixed up in our bowl ready to go, and I've got my trusty ice cream scoop for putting the icing, or putting the batter into the cupcake cases. It just makes it a lot tidier, and it gives it quite an even sort of dosage for each one. So I literally just do a scoop of ice in the ice cream scoop, and then pop it into the cupcake case like that, and it makes it a little bit tidier and quite a bit quicker. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop my batter into all my cases, and I'll be back. Alright, so now I've got all my batter into my cases. So as you can see, this recipe does actually make 24 standard size cupcakes. So we're going to pop those into an oven. I've preheated my oven. I'm doing a fan bake oven, so I've preheated my oven to 160 degrees Celsius. Or if you're not using a fan bake, then 180 degrees Celsius is what I would bake them at. And I'm going to bake them for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to have a look at them. Usually after 15 minutes, I switch the trays top to bottom and turn them around, and then probably do another couple of minutes, but we'll see how they're going after that. So we'll pop them into the oven, and then I'll be back. Okay, so my cupcakes have been in the oven for 15 minutes now, so we're gonna have a look and see what they're doing. Woohoo, and that fogs up the camera. So, trying to show you. There we go. So I'm just gonna reach in and press on the top of them, and they're looking quite spongy. I'm gonna grab my my tea towel as my oven mitt and just pull those out so you can see them a little bit better. So you just press the top of them and they're springing back, so those are actually looking quite done to me. And a good way to check is pop a little skewer or toothpick in, and if you take it out, there are no crumbs on there, so I'll test a couple of them. So that would lead me to believe that they're all done. So we'll pull them out and let them cool down. Okay, so just before I start the icing, I just wanted to show you, so I've let these cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, and now I've taken them off and just popped them onto a cooling rack, so that'll let them cool down. They definitely need to be cooled down to cool to the touch, room temperature, before you put the icing on, because you don't want the icing to melt on the warm cupcakes. So let them finish cooling on the rack, and I will be back to show you the icing I'm going to put on them. Okay, so I'm getting ready to make my vanilla icing for the top of my cupcakes. To do that, I've got some icing sugar, I've got my snow cream again, all measured out in the measuring cup. Now I like to use my snow cream as opposed to butter because it gives me a much whiter icing. So if I need to tint it a color, then it's going to make sure it's a much more true color rather than giving it a slightly yellow tinge that the butter gives it. If you'd like to use butter, that's absolutely fine. It'll work exactly the same way. It will just give you a more buttery flavor, and it might give you a slightly yellow butter tinge to your icing. If you don't mind, then that's not a problem, but I prefer the white snow cream or vegetable shortening to make my icing. Then also to flavor mine, I'm going to use a clear vanilla extract that will again allow me to keep a very pure white icing, to be able to tint it any color that I want to for whichever recipe I'm doing. I'm also using a disposable piping bag. This allows me to easily pipe the icing on top of the cupcakes. I'm going to use a Wilton 1M Swirl, and that is just using a Wilton 1M tip. That gives you sort of a little nice swirl that you would get on your cupcakes that you usually see. It's sort of that traditional cupcake swirl. That's just done with this tip here. You can see the prongs on the top. I'll show you how to pop that into the icing bag and how to get your icing into the bag, but we'll start with the icing first. Okay, so to make my icing, I'm going to use my KitchenAid food processor. Now, when I do my batters and mixtures and dough and stuff like that, I do use my mixer. However, I have found that using the food processor to do icing, especially a buttercream style icing, is very, very easy to do, and it saves a lot of mess and time. So what I'm going to do is measure everything into my food processor and then come back to you. For this icing, we're going to be using 1 cup of our vegetable shortening. We're going to be using approximately 4 cups of icing sugar. And because I'm using the food processor, I find I don't have to sift it unless it's extremely lumpy. Usually the food processor with the metal blade will sort all that out for me and fix that, and that'll be nice and smooth. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring, and then approximately 7 to 8 teaspoons of water, and that's just to change the consistency. So I'll show you how I do that as I go along. So let me pop my ingredients into the bowl, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so in my bowl, I've got 4 cups of icing sugar and 1 cup of the vegetable shortening. I'm just adding in my clear vanilla. So that's going to leave it nice and white, but give it a lovely vanilla flavor. And then I'm going to start with sort of probably 6 teaspoons of water. There we go. And so I'll blend that up and see how the consistency goes, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just going to turn on my machine and let it run until I can see that everything's incorporated, and then what I'll do is check the consistency to see if it's spreadable and pipeable. Okay, now I can see that that hasn't come quite together enough for me, so I'm going to add a couple more teaspoons of water to that and then run again and see how we go. So just 2 more teaspoons in there, just a little bit at a time. You don't want to add too much because then trying to get the consistency back to being stiffer is a little bit harder. So we'll just run that again. Now that's sort of started to clump around the side, and that's still going to be way too thick for me to be able to spread. So you can kind of see when I push it in, it's more like a dough than an icing that's spreadable. So again, I'm going to pop in another 2 teaspoons of water, pop the lid back on, and let it run a little bit longer. Still a little bit stiff, but this time I'm going to grab my spoon and just sort of tuck that around the sides as it's getting a little bit more stuck. There we go. And it's still quite stiff, so we're going to add a little bit more water. And just another 2 teaspoons, again, not a lot at a time. I don't want it to switch from being stiff to too soft. So we'll pop that back on. And have another quick look at it. Now I'm using a metal spoon rather than a spatula because of the nice sharp blade in the bottom of the bowl. If I use a spatula, then I have unfortunately sort of lost a few little bits of that and made cuts in it. So this spoon works much better. Just a metal spatula or spoon would be fine. So that's starting, as you can see, to get a little bit thinner so that I'm slowly able to move it around a little bit more. So again, I'm going to add a little bit more water to that. Just another 2 teaspoons, a little bit at a time. Pop the lid back on and see how it goes. All right, let's check that again. All right, that's much better. So now you can see that I can easily sort of move it around with my spoon, and it's much softer. I can dollop it in there. So that's sort of the consistency that I'm looking for. It still holds a spoon up when you've put it in through the top, but you'll sort of get used to, the more icing you make, you'll get used to the consistency. If you find it too stiff once you start to use it, you can always pop it back in, add some more water, and make it a little bit thinner to what suits you. All right, we'll get organized to put it into a bag, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I've got the icing to the right consistency, I'm just going to double check the flavor of it and make sure I'm happy with that. We did only add 1 teaspoon of the vanilla extract, and usually that's enough because it's quite strong, but we'll just double check. Yep, happy with that flavor. So now what we need to do is put it into the icing bag. So I'll get that set up and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm ready to put the icing into my icing bag, but first I need to put the tip into the bag. As you can see, the bag is still has the bottom bit on it, so I need to cut a little bit off. So to figure out how to do that, I just pop the tip in like that. I sort of think it should be about there. You just want those little spikes to be all the way out so you get your whole pattern. Just going to cut off the tip like that and then push that through nice and snug there. So we're all ready to fill our bag. To fill our bag, we want to first take the bag and turn it inside out like that. What this allows us to do, I can pop my hand up underneath there. I've got a little pocket here so that I can hold that. Then I take a scoop of icing out of my bowl, pop that in there, and then I can pinch and pull that off. So that gets the icing into the bag. And then I can do that again. Now with this, you can keep filling it, so you don't need to fill the whole, put all of the icing into the bag in the first go. Just put a little bit in so that it's easy to control, and then refill it once you've used it. So now that I've got that in there, you just fold that back up, so no mess, all the icing's inside the bag. Squish it down like that. And then what you want to do is scrunch it up at the top. You're going to twist, 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 twist nice and tight. So when you squeeze, the icing comes out this end rather than back out the top. And then you just give it a squeeze, and as you can see, the icing starts to come out. So I'll get a cupcake ready, and then I'll show you how to do that just classic cupcake swirl called a 1M swirl, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got my bag full of icing, my 1M tip on the end, nice and tight at this end, so when I squeeze, the icing comes out through the tip. I pick up my cupcake. I'm going to start on the outside of the cupcake like this. Squeeze gently until you've got icing coming out. You go around in a circle like that, finishing up at the top. And that gives you your classic cupcake swirl or 1M swirl. Very simple, very easy. It gives you a lovely look on the top of your cupcake. You can leave it as is, or you can add sprinkles and sparkles or little toppers and all sorts. So we'll just do that again. Start with the cupcake, nozzle on the outside. You work all the way around like that, going into the center and up. And then just as you're pulling up, don't press so hard, just let go of the pressure and away you go. So we'll do a couple more just so you can watch. Around the outside like that. Squeeze, 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 and let go. Very simple. And as I go, I'm just going to squish this down a little bit more, twist again, so I've got a good grip on the bag. And we'll go one more time. Squeeze, 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 around and up. And you can change how much icing you squeeze out just by how hard you squeeze and how long you squeeze. So if I want to do a quick little one, I can just go nice and quick, and you get a slightly smaller one. Or you can take another cupcake, again, squeezing that down. And you can go around and around and around and around, and then you get a nice big peak of icing on the top. So you can change how much icing you've got on your cupcakes. Entirely up to you. Squishing the icing down every time, turning it like so. And then I just start on the outside and go around and up. So that is how you make your fantastic swirl. So I'm going to finish these cupcakes and then we'll be back to show you what all the finished cupcakes look like. Okay, so just as I was doing those cupcakes, I realized I'm running out of icing in my bag, so I'm just going to refill it. So to do that, we just pop it open again like so. Pop your hand up underneath so you can hang on to it again. And I'm going to reach over and grab some more icing from my bowl. And the same as we did last time, just pop that in and then pinch with your hand inside the bag. We'll add another little bit in there. So again, holding the bag, icing on the spoon. I sort of wipe it across my hand like that, pushing it inside the bag. Keeps it nice and clean and tidy. There we go. Fold it back up over again, nice and clean. And then we can finish off the rest of our cupcakes. Okay, so I've finished putting my icing on all of my cupcakes. We've got 24 lovely cupcakes that are all ready to eat. They have classic vanilla cupcake, easy one bowl, and a lovely vanilla frosting. Very easy to just peel off the paper now. That's what your lovely cake should look like on the inside. Very fluffy and moist. And just cut one open for you to have a look. Straight down the middle. And that is your lovely, fluffy, yummy inside. Thanks so much for watching. what I'll do is post the recipe below so you can find that there. And if you've got any questions, just post those and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you'd like to see any of my future videos, please subscribe. And if you liked the video, then give me a thumbs up. Thanks again.